Hello, and welcome back to It's a Very Exciting Time, a podcast by a UFO nerd and his tolerant friend. My name is Scott, and I've been fascinated by the phenomenon my whole life.
And my name is Chuck. I'm an aerospace nerd and a tolerant friend.
We started this podcast because since 2017, there have been shocking revelations, from news of secret Pentagon programs to confirmed videos of astonishing craft. In a nutshell, now that we know the government has recovered non-human technology.
Or at least we will, after Tim Burchett kicks down the door of Lockheed Martin's secret hangar.
It raises a natural question. If UFOs are real, what else? Suddenly, some of these other parts of the phenomenon that seemed unlikely are pulled into the realm of the possible.
And they may still be unlikely. But even if it's new science and not, in fact, aliens...
Woo! Woo! It's a very exciting time.
Yeah, all right. Only a third time's a charm on that intro.
Sometimes you got to re-record the intro a few times before it sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's my question. Are you going to make Annie listen to all three? Since I know how much she loves the beginning.
No, Annie listens to the podcast when she wants to listen to the podcast. I don't have her listen to rough drafts or anything.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good. Hey, so I have some exciting news.
Mm-hmm.
We are officially cash flow positive.
Fantastic.
I know. That means we're now making, I think, $24 a month, which is really pulling it in there. But
always my plan. Get this UFO podcast off the ground, quit my day job as a web developer.
Yeah, so a couple of our Patreons upgraded their accounts. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to all the Patreons. So yeah, that was very exciting.
That is very exciting. And yes, absolutely. Thank you so much to all of our patrons. That's a huge deal to cover the costs of the fancy editing software we use so that Chuck doesn't have to resync everything after we re-record the intro 3 times in a row.
Exactly. Yeah, it really does make a huge difference. And we get video now. So that's awesome.
We do get video now. Bonus. All right, Chuck. We got a good show today. There's been some UFO news over the last few weeks.
Okay.
We're going to open up with the ICIG briefing. So on January 12th, the House Oversight Committee participated in a classified briefing with the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, the ICIG. His name is Thomas Monahan, and he was there to talk about whistleblower David Grusch's claims. Now, you may remember this follows a very similar briefing that they had back in October with the Inspector General of the DOD, which Representative Luna said was pointless, and Nancy Mace described as one of the most worthless classified briefings I have ever attended.
Which really, I feel like that's true of many of the meetings I attend, but I've never really gone on camera and said that.
I've never felt the need to rank them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
So the reason we're a little excited about the ICIG meeting, as opposed to the DOD-IG meeting, is the ICIG received David Grusch's whistleblower complaint and referred it to Congress, saying that it was urgent and credible. And Congress has basically been trying to get more information ever since that happened, which was early last year. Then David Grusch came out in public in June and testified before Congress in July. And it's just been every week since then. The UFO caucus group, Tim Burchett and his pals, trying to get David Grusch in a skiff, trying to get a copy of his whistleblower complaint. And of course, Tim Burchett views anybody not giving him what he wants immediately as evidence of a huge cover-up. And unfortunately, in this case, he might be right. It's always awkward when, the more conspiracy-minded congressmen happen to overlap with where I happen to be conspiracy-minded. So they had this meeting. As they came out, all the UFO reporters are waiting there in a scrum to ask them questions. there were a few different types of reactions. First of all, there were a bunch of reps who were very frustrated with the process itself of talking
Even of the new one?
Yeah, even with the ICIG, just the interacting with them. It seems like it's very frustrating. Our old buddy, Representative Tim Burchett, said, I don't know, more of the same. I'm tired of the runaround. Someone would ask a question, but then they would give a very unanswer answer, and then somebody else would ask it more specific, and then they would give a better answer. I'm just tired of that stuff. Just give us the answer. We shouldn't have to go through that many hoops. That was my best Tim Burchett voice, by the way.
It's so good.
Representative Andy Ogles said, I asked very specific questions, all of which were dodged or given typical ambiguous answers. There's a concerted effort to conceal as much information as possible. What you see is an over-compartmentalization of the truth. And then Representative Mike Waltz said it was very process-oriented. We didn't see anything definitive on the existence of extraterrestrials, but we definitely saw some concerns on whether things were being shared that should be.
Yeah, this sounds maddening, like super duper frustrating. But I feel like it also makes sense. Didn't someone say that the that you don't want to talk with Congress because they leak like a sieve?
That was, in fact, the first Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, who is now David Grusch's lawyer. But the good news is it sounds like they were able to get some specific information. Now, obviously, everything they said in the skiff is classified. They're not allowed to come out and talk to us. But we did hear they did not get confirmation on extraterrestrials. So what sort of information did they get? Representative Jared Moskowitz said, this was the most fascinating meeting I've sat in. This was more directional, right? On where we need to focus and what the next steps are, where we need to ask for information, places actually to maybe go.
Ooh,
right?
That's tantalizing.
When one of the reporters asked him what sort of new questions he had, he sort of hemmed and hawed for a minute because he can't say specifically. He said, let me just give you a hypothetical. If someone, David Grusch, makes 10 claims, and then someone, the ICIG, says, well, we didn't look into all 10 because they weren't all in the report, but hey, we found these 6 very credible based on it. Well, we would want to go attack those 6. Representative Eric Burleson said, there's certain locations that they've provided that we can certainly look into, and hopefully we'll get access. Although it appears, based on conversations, that it's not going to be easy to get access. And then Representative Anna Paulina Luna tweeted, I feel confident that we have enough evidence to move forward with our first field hearing. This is something they've been threatening for a while. We will be announcing details soon. In the discussion thread on that tweet, Matthew Pines, who we've quoted a few times, he's the director of security or something at Sentinel-1, he responded saying, they were told of specific facilities by the ICIG. They will now try to gain access or door knock.
Whoa. So one of the things I love about our new intro is that I have no idea what the content is that I'm about to say. I know it's coming, but it sounds like this is it. Like Burchett knocking on the door of some secret hangar somewhere.
Right? Open up, dadgummit.
This is right. Exactly.
I'm super pumped. So that's really intriguing. Obviously, they couldn't tell us anything, but this is multiple people mentioning locations. That's a specific word.
Yeah, interesting.
Now,
and
the other, sorry, go ahead.
Presumably, the people at those locations, do you think they know that they were just name dropped?
I mean, I got to assume anybody who's working in a UFO reverse engineering facility has been sweating since June. If they haven't already been working to get stuff out or preparing for what happens when they get outed, they're doing a bad job.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, the other big theme that came out of it is a lot of representatives came out of this feeling that David Grusch has been validated. Representative Eric Burleson said, there's some validation of Grusch's claims on process, that it's difficult to get information to members of Congress or that information is being withheld. I think that it's been proven what he said, that the information is being compartmentalized and that there's a culture of fear and intimidation around this.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Representative Jared Moskowitz said, the process is extremely frustrating, but this is the first real briefing we've had where we've now made some progress on some of the claims Mr. Grusch has made. This is the first time we kind of got a ruling on what the Inspector General thinks of those claims. This meeting actually moved the needle. Based on what we heard, many of Grusch's claims have merit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right? Representative Nancy Mace said, it's actually one of the more productive meetings that we've had so far. Some of the others have been completely irrelevant and useless. This had more utility, a better conversation. And I would say David Grusch was determined to be credible on some of the things that we discussed today.
Oh, interesting.
And then lastly, Representative Anna Paulina Luna said, if there was any doubt in anyone's minds that Grusch isn't credible, after leaving the briefing where I'm at, I feel he's a very credible witness.
Yeah, I always thought so, but so are they saying that like all of his claims are valid, or what's?
No, that's a really good question. And obviously I don't have any more information but reading between the lines, I suspect they're mostly talking about Grusch's claims that Congress is being lied to, that there are illegal programs being improperly concealed.
Okay.
Now, the nature of those programs is a separate question, right? But
right.
That lines up with the Inspector General's claim that the concerns in his whistleblower complaint were urgent and credible, where the complaints in his whistleblower complaint were that Congress were being lied to.
Right.
Right. So I don't think at any point the Inspector General has said, oh yeah, there are aliens. I think what the Inspector General did was looked at what Grusch said and said, yes, there is evidence here that something is being concealed improperly from Congress. So if I had to guess, when they're talking about this was a very process-heavy meeting, there was a lot of discussion about protocol and stovepiping and compartmentalization, and Grusch's claims were validated. I'm guessing that's the part they're talking. Now, of course, if one part of Grusch's story is true, it certainly lends credibility to the other. But I'm guessing that's what they're talking
about. I'm interested in the moment after Burchett kicks the door in, when they look into this room and they find like 16 people wide-eyed looking at them, and it turns out the whole time they've just been like popping bubble wrap or something. And this like massive boondoggle that's just for like troop entertainment or something. It's like a bouncy castle or something.
See, that's funny, but I think growing up watching X-Files, like what I expect is Burchett kicks the door open and there's nobody in there. There's just like a bunch of blocks where the UFO used to be sitting, and like, you know, like the outlines of the wall where, you know, posters were hung and stuff. Like the whole place has been stripped to the bone.
There's like a yellow outline on the floor that's labeled UFO.
Yeah, exactly. Or labeled, but like someone has carefully drawn a line through the word UFO.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Not UFO parking.
Uh-huh.
All right. So speaking of our good boy, UAP whistleblower, David Grusch, we're all eagerly waiting. Last year, he said he was going to write an op-ed. It ain't out yet, but while we're waiting, he gave a small private presentation, and we've got notes from a Reddit user who was in the audience.
Wait, what? So, okay, sorry. Did he give a small private presentation to some random person on Reddit? Or
No. It was like
The
a
weirdest
60-person
ASMR.
presentation. A Redditor was in the audience.
Okay. Okay. Like,
Yeah. So this Redditor shared notes and a few photos of Grusch with some of his slides. They were answering questions from the community for a while, but then they deleted their account.
oh,
People on Twitter are assuming that what happened is someone reached out to him and was like, yo, this was a private meeting. Could you not?
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Someone random, not the Men in
Uh,
Black.
maybe the Men in Black. So the Redditor said that they went to a private 60-person presentation with David Grusch as the speaker. They said this was mostly all private citizens, as in professors, lawyers, business people, a few scientists, retired military, current FBI, other government agency members. It was hosted by a Wall Street bigwig and his lawyer friend, and it was sort of a small salon-style talk. David also did it for free. And in the end, we were allowed to ask questions.
Why? I have so many questions. Like, why did he do it for free? Like, clearly they can afford it. I don't.
Well, I think I can guess that. We talked in
Okay.
the last episode about how any whistleblower or witness who is making money off of appearances is immediately suspect in the eyes of the community.
Right.
And if there's one thing our good boy is all about, it is being above reproach.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. Got it. Well, that's disappointing. I feel like he should be making a ton of money, but
Well, I agree.
but did he say anything good? Anything new?
He did. We got a few new claims out. He said, and this is more quotes from the Redditor, he said he was part of an extremely secret program that figured out how to track and find UAPs in our atmosphere and near Earth orbit. He said that this had something to do with a frequency they can track or some kind of signature. And he said his op-ed will include more details about this.
Yeah. Okay. Those are cool details. That's stuff we can act on.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And to be clear, this is something we've been hearing rumors about for years. Ross Coulthart mentioned it in his book. Lou Elizondo mentioned it. This idea that there's some frequency that lets us track them. There's also been rumors that all the way back to World War II era that some of the UFO crashes were caused by high-powered radar arrays. So there's been this idea in the community for some time that, like we can detect them on infrared film. Our radars sometimes detect them, sometimes don't. We saw with the Nimitz, they had a new radar and all of a sudden they're detecting things they weren't seeing before. So yeah, I don't know, but getting some more details about these kind of rumors that have been swirling for years, that would be great.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting to hear Grusch, but he had already teased that he had firsthand knowledge. I would be very excited if his firsthand knowledge was, I worked in the building where we tracked UAPs.
Yeah. So, but this, didn't he say, I thought that he started out not doing anything with UAP before he started investigating. Oh,
that's a really good question.
Had to say that.
We know that he was not allowed to talk about some things as a result of his Dopser review. He was very clear about that. So it kind of fits if he would have come out and said, yes, I was assigned to the UAP task force. That's a part I can talk about. And in the course of the investigation I did at the UAP task force, I talked to 40 different people and got all this information, and that resulted in a whistleblower campaign. But what led to him being selected for the UAP task force, right? We've all been kind of assuming it was just because he was a very well-credentialed guy. But if he's a guy who's been working in the building where they figured out how to track UAPs, it's a little more like, oh yeah, he's the dude. Send him over.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He's probably already under 6 NDAs. So like he's safe. He already knows what's up. Like, okay.
Right. Yeah. Going back to the Redditor's comments, Grusch also mentioned that he had recently been informed that a U.S. adversary was considering full disclosure to get out ahead of the U.S. and that Grusch had passed this information along to the U.S. government.
Oh, catastrophic disclosure.
Catastrophic disclosure. That's what we're all talking about.
Perfect. Yeah, right?
Hot new topic.
It's got to be China, right? Like
China or Russia. Yeah.
does Russia even have I don't know. I don't know what Russia's state is right
The
now, but I
rumor
don't
has been, remember that when all this shit started going down in the 50s and the 70s, USSR was a global superpower.
Right.
So is Russia
they now?
top of the heap today? Not necessarily, but that doesn't mean that they haven't been working on reverse engineering this whole time. That doesn't mean
All
that they
right,
don't
fair.
possess information. And if there is a world leader on the world stage right now who I can picture just going rogue and dumping all the UFO docs to embarrass the US, it's Putin.
Yeah, it's just like okay, yeah, to embarrass the US, I can see it, but it does, like they usually play those pretty close to the chest. Like
I mean, it hasn't
I don't
happened
know,
yet,
like
but yeah.
okay.
But yeah,
Interesting.
this plugs into rumors we've heard that, like, obviously the gatekeepers in the US do not want this to come out. They are fighting tooth and
Right.
nail to keep it from coming out. But we're also hearing that behind the scenes, there is a growing contingent who is aware it can't be kept secret for much longer. Now, we've heard a
So how
million
do you
different reasons for that, right?
right.
James Webb Space Telescope is supposedly about to detect, life elsewhere.
Hmm.
Another country is about to disclose before the US can get to it. SpaceX circles the moon and finds the secret base on the dark side of the moon, right? Like there's all these things that
Right.
could be a factor. And you
Yeah.
understand why, if you were the secret keeper, you might be looking at the state of the world and going, I don't know, man, we got like 5 years tops. Like, what can we do in 5 years before the lid blows off this whole thing?
Yeah, right. Or yeah. Okay. And I'm sure they don't know the 5 years. It's like it's going to be
No,
something
no.
like SpaceX circles around and someone could find the
Mhm,
secret base. But the moon is still a really big fucking place and
mhm.
we still struggle to like find impact craters of things where we know where they crashed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So yeah, I
um,
don't know, but
hmm,
it's easy for me to
interesting.
imagine if you're working in one of
Yeah.
these, just like we were talking about, like Tim Burchett's going to come knocking any day now. Like if you're
Yeah.
working in these programs, if you're smart, you're preparing for when it gets out, because is it going to get out in 6 months? Probably not. Is it going to get out in a year? Maybe 2 years, 3 years, 5 years feels more likely, right? Like, I don't know what the timeline is between then and now. I can't imagine, if this is real, if what Grusch is saying is true, that 5 years from now, we don't know anything more, you know?
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
All right. Getting back to Grusch's claims, this
Yeah, yeah.
one you'll like. Grusch was told about a UAP in US possession with a diameter of around 40 feet. But once you
Okay.
went inside, it was the size of a football field. They believed that the
What?
object was somehow able to manipulate both space and time.
All right, Doctor Who's TARDIS. We got it.
It's happening. It's finally happening. Now, I'm actually thrilled to hear this rumor coming from David Grusch, because this is one of those persistent rumors that has been kicking around the community for years, but never had a good source attached to it. Most recently, I've heard lawyer Daniel Sheehan repeating this claim, and maybe he heard it from Grusch. I don't know. But the problem is, Danny Sheehan is a great guy. He's right out at the front of it, but he's also a little excitable and has said things in the past that turned out to be not quite correct. So I
Yeah.
never brought that claim to the show because I was
Yeah.
waiting to hear it from someone else. So
Yeah.
getting it from David Grusch, very exciting. Now, of course, Grusch hasn't seen it. He just said he was told about it. But it kind of, actually, now that I say it, maybe he heard it from Danny Sheehan. Never mind.
I mean, it smacks of one of those things that like every person who has a disorganized office really wants to be true. It's like
Absolutely. I want to pay rent on a 100 square foot house, but I want to have 1,000 square feet. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
David Grusch said that the object was both using and creating energy more than a terawatt when measured.
Huh. Uh, um, I have to admit, I don't really have a good feeling of what a terawatt is. I only know gigawatts
Yeah,
from Back to the
1.21
Future.
gigawatts.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's right where my brain went. But same,
Yeah.
right? Like I hear terawatt, it just means big, a lot. I don't know. Is that a
Yeah.
lot? So a Redditor commented, and I went and confirmed this.
Okay.
1 terawatt hour of power output is roughly half of all the energy used in the United States.
Whoa. Okay. All
No,
right. Interesting. So
right?
they got some wicked like power generation, but I also have questions about how do you measure that? Like
That's
what
a
kind of
great
like cable
question.
do they hook up to that
Yeah.
multimeter, you know?
It got a really big multimeter.
Yeah.
The
It's like
biggest.
the size of a building. Like
Yeah,
you can
I
see
don't
it from
know.
space.
I don't know. I am not an electrician. Presumably they have a means to measure this, but again, this plugs into Richard Dolan and others have been saying for years
Yeah.
that the real scandal with UFOs being kept secret, in addition to just the general principle of if there's life outside the
Right.
Earth, we should know. But the real scandal is we're going through climate change and fossil fuel crises that have been caused by our dependence on this stuff. And if it turns out the government has been sitting on an alternate form of energy, like you got
It's real
12
embarrassing.
UFOs, you hook 2 of them up to the grid, we're good to go. Close every
Right.
power plant. Like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
gonna be awkward.
Yeah, that's going to be real awkward. And also, I can totally freaking believe it. Like the oil
Mhm.
lobbyists would
Oh yeah.
never allow that to
Yeah.
happen.
Although the skeptic in me has to point out that all we know is how much power it generated. Nothing said it was clean energy. Maybe this thing's rolling coal.
Totally. See, I mean, you need a whole football field in there just for the coal plant.
That's the
Yeah.
real reason they've kept it secret. Yeah, the aliens, like, there's truck nuts hanging off the back, big exhaust pipes, a sticker of Calvin pissing on a human.
Uh-huh. Turns out climate change was entirely caused by this one UFO that they've been running all day.
Oh, man. Speaking of aliens, David Grusch said that we would not be surprised by what non-human intelligence look like, as they look like the typical gray, and they aren't sure where these beings come from. There's a chance that they're extra dimensional, but that could also just seem this way because of the technology they use, rather than them being actual extra dimensional beings.
So, yeah, that's cool. But also, I know he said extra dimensional all along, but when they talk about extra dimensions, do you get the feeling they're talking time travel or multiverse or like what?
You're hitting the nail on the head. Or flatland stuff, right? Where
Right.
like a higher dimensional object protrudes into our space in ways that seem to break the laws of physics. Yeah, it's a great question. Dimension is not a super well-defined word in this context.
Yeah.
Ignoring Grusch for a moment, in the UFO community at large, extra dimensional is tended to use in contrast to extraterrestrial. Not in the sense of extra dimensional being clearly defined, but in the sense of the kind of picture that we all have is, these are little green men that come from Zeta Reticuli. They come from a particular star. We know where they are. They've somehow learned how to travel faster than light. Like, it's more complicated than that. They're not space travelers necessarily. Although you can make the argument that time and space and dimensional travel are all the same thing. But the point is, it's not as simple as they come from the moon or whatever. They come from somewhere else, and there's a dimensional aspect to that. But yeah, I have no idea, right? Like, there is a fun conspiracy theory that all of the emphasis on multiverse stuff in pop culture lately has been a government program to prepare us all for the idea of multiversal stuff, which I kind of love. Sneaking a CIA rep into the Marvel writers room, like, hey, what if we put a multiverse in here?
That's so. Yeah, I love that idea.
Right.
It's perfect.
All right. Last detail from Grusch. Interestingly, he also mentioned how many people know the full scope of the phenomena to be no more than 50 people. But it wasn't clear whether this meant 50 people currently alive and active in the program or 50 people ever in history.
Right. Shit. So, I mean, standard question. Would you want to be one of those people?
Oh, God, no. I think it would be so lonely. Like, especially put a number on it now, right? Like 50
Yeah.
people worldwide. You're not talking
tiny.
50 people in your program, 50 people in your
Yeah.
department. It's like you, a guy on the reverse engineering program in Colorado, Putin, 12 guys who report to Putin, someone in China. You know, like there's probably no one that you personally can go talk to. Once you get read into this, you are now at the highest level. It would be so lonely. I think I would hate having the secret that I couldn't talk to anyone about.
Yeah. I wonder too, though, if so, like, when I was read into a thing at my company, there were not that many people who knew much about it, or who were even read in. But I would say that none of us knew the full scope of what was happening there, because it's like it was complicated.
Right. Well, and
So-
that's what Grusch is saying here, right? Like these are 50 people who know everything. You know,
Okay.
there are obviously a lot
Yeah.
more than 50 people working in all the programs around the world in various countries, but those are all the people who are compartmentalized or stovepipe. They may have a big part of the picture, but they don't have the whole picture.
Right. Yeah. I can't even imagine what it would take to actually like get perspective on the whole thing.
Right.
Like I'm thinking about like J2 or something reading every doc. Like they don't have time for that.
No.
I don't know.
No.
Anyways.
Well, and also we know there are conspiracy theorists, there are bad actors, there are disinformation agents like Richard Doty. Like there's a lot of stuff that's out there. So there's a lot of people who think they know. So you would be dealing with people who think they know, and you can't correct them. You can't be like, well, actually, this part is bullshit. That part we made up. This part is totally true, and it's actually worse than you think. You know.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I don't think I'd want to.
I can tell you one person who for sure definitely does not know the answer. Former AARO director Sean Kirkpatrick is back in the news.
Of course he is. Yeah.
I know you thought we'd heard the last from him, but no, he's back. He wrote an article. He wrote an article for Scientific American titled, "Here's What I Learned as the U.S. Government's UFO Hunter."
And
the article, it is a viciously dismissive summary of what he claims AARO found while preparing AARO's upcoming Historical Record Report Volume 1, which is due out later this month. And this is the thing that Congress ordered them to do. There's a review of all government UFO stuff since 1945.
And this is covering the last 3 months, right? Because it's Volume 1.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He opens like this. You're going to love this. Carl Sagan popularized the maxim that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. This advice should not be optional for policymakers. In today's world of misinformation, conspiracy-driven decision-making, and sensationalist-dominated governance, our capacity for rational, evidence-based critical thinking is eroding with deleterious consequences for our ability to effectively deal with multiplying challenges of ever-increasing complexity.
Yeah. Deleterious consequences. That is a great phrase. But that was a lot of words. I felt myself falling asleep like halfway through, which I'm sure was the point.
exactly the point, right? And I forgot how condescending Kirkpatrick can sound. Like,
Yeah, right.
just say that you're mad that no one takes science seriously.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
we get it.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
He says, quote, "The conspiracist's story goes something like this." And then he provides a 1-paragraph summary of Grusch's claims without
Uh-huh.
ever mentioning David Grusch by name, which is a
Yeah, of
wonderful
course.
bit of shade. He says, quote, "During a full-scale, year-long investigation of this story, which has been told and retold by a small group of interconnected believers and others with possibly less than honest intentions, none of whom have first-hand accounts of any of this, AARO discovered few things, and none were about aliens."
I mean, I want to know the things they discovered because I haven't heard them talk about those yet. But it feels like, I mean, it honestly feels like he's retroactively saying that AARO spent a year investigating Grush's story.
Right?
But like, you came out in June? I don't.
Yeah,
Do they have like?
absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. This is not what AARO was spun up for. AARO did not spend a full year investigating David Grusch's claims. From what we've heard from David Grusch and others, they spent minutes investigating Grusch's claims and then immediately dismissed them. But also, like, he hits on this thing, and I would argue this is a conspiracy theory. There is this claim that there is a small vocal minority of people who have misled the entire Congress and, huge factions of the military into wasting a lot of money looking into nothing. They never name these people, but by implication, it's pretty clear we're talking about the TTSA crowd, right? We're talking about Chris UFO Daddy Mellon. We're talking about Lou Elizondo. We're talking about Tom DeLonge. We're talking about Hal Puthoff. All these guys who have been coming out with the claim. There's also an easy way to kind of water down anything in this story by pointing out its association with Robert Bigelow, because Robert Bigelow, while he is a fairly serious aerospace dude, is also a fairly public UFO believer. And we now know that a big part of what OSAP, the previous program before ATIP, was doing was giving Robert Bigelow a ton of money to do studies out at Skinwalker Ranch, which now has a very sensationalist TV show associated with it. So if Skinwalker Ranch equals sensationalist TV and Skinwalker Ranch is associated with Bigelow and all these UFO programs are associated with Bigelow, then anyone associated with the UFO program is probably full of shit. Like, there's this whole cascade of assumptions that comes down.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Let's take this claim at face value for a second. Let's say Lou Elizondo cracked and he convinced Chris Mellon to come along, and him and 3 or 4 of their buddies went out and lobbied Congress, and they found a bunch of pilots in the Navy and convinced them that there was crazy shit happening.
Right. Yeah.
That is equally concerning to there being UFOs. If our government is this easily tricked and manipulated, and our military is tricked and manipulated, we should be talking about that. Like, trying to hand wave it away as, oh, there's nothing here. It's just a years-long campaign to trick the government. Okay.
Yeah, let's cover that. Let's see if we can fix that. Although I gotta say, like, I feel like my company has been doing a lot of that lately. Like, I look back on some of the projects, I'm like, no. Like, a small vocal minority waylaying huge amounts of resources into like pointless projects, and it's like, I don't know how I would fix that. And the government is so much bigger. It's got to happen, right?
Yeah.
So even at face value, I'm sure that's constantly happening. People getting the wrong idea and spending a huge amount of time spinning up committees. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're not wrong, right? 100%. Any large scale organization is susceptible to kind of like rogue actors who know how to work the system, you know, and they may not even be rogue actors. They're just kind of self-serving individuals. Like, well, I don't want to do work, but I can put myself on this project or this committee and
Yeah.
I can convince everyone this committee is really important. You know, like you're totally right. But I think, again, the scale of this leads me to believe, like, you're not talking, like, they try to lowball it by saying handful of individuals who have misled the government. But we're not talking about a handful of individuals. We're talking about many, many, many people. David Grusch alone has 40 witnesses who testified to him about this stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
You're talking about 40 high security clearance people who were tricked into believing that there's aliens and secret programs in the government. That's a concerning problem. So anyway, I can't say it's not happening, but I find the scale of it actually kind of works against this claim.
Yeah, right.
Kirkpatrick goes on in among his points where he's trying to dismiss this claim. He says, no record exists of any president or living DoD or intelligence community leader knowing about this alleged program, nor any congressional committee having such knowledge.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the whole point, right? Like,
right? It's a secret program. It's been illegally hidden if you found records of it.
Yeah. That's why we needed you to dig a little bit, Kirkpatrick.
Exactly. And this gets back to, we've talked about this before, but we have been hearing more and more confirmation that Kirkpatrick's approach was to be told by a witness, Program X is a secret reverse engineering facility. And the way all of these things work is they're nested within, right? It's not like this is the program and the only thing it does is reverse engineering. It's like there's a bigger program and the people who do the reverse engineering work are nested within this for plausible deniability. So apparently what Kirkpatrick would do was go knock on their door and go, yo, you guys got any UFOs here? I heard you had UFOs. And they would say no, because they're legally required to say no. And Kirkpatrick would go, good enough for me. And go back and draw a line through that witness. This guy freaking kills me.
This guy.
The reason it bugs me so much is we spent so long kind of like playing, I don't know, maybe he's, stuck in a rock and a hard place. I don't know, like the guy's got a tough job and like, I don't know. I feel like slap in the face. He says, the report, so he's referring to the report that is about to come out that AARO is going to release with the historical investigation. The report demonstrates that many of the circulating allegations described above derive from inadvertent or unauthorized disclosures of legitimate U.S. programs or related R&D that have nothing to do with extraterrestrial issues or technology. Some are misrepresentations, and some derive from pure, unsupported beliefs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's giving us a preview of what's going to be in that report. It's like big old dismissal.
Listen, all those trucks that rolled into Virginia, that was a standard military exercise. It was just a dwarf couple at the hospital. Those girls just saw a guy covered in mud.
Yep. Yeah. Totally true.
The playbook's been out there for a while. Is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of precedent to draw from. So.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Now here's where this story gets fun, because here's the thing. I probably wouldn't have even brought this up because, hey, former head of UFO program says no UFOs to be found. Well, not really news. Like that's what he said the whole time. Yeah. But of course, Kirkpatrick published this in Scientific American, and we know that Kirkpatrick's favored social network is LinkedIn. That's where he posted that big letter that got him in trouble.
Yeah.
So he posted on LinkedIn his article. Travis Taylor, the former chief scientist on the UAP task force, was also not too impressed with Kirkpatrick's article and left some comments.
Interesting. Wait, so hang on. Sorry. Remind me who Travis Taylor is.
He's the one on Skinwalker Ranch from Alabama with the funner accent. We're going to set up some lasers. We're going to fire some rockets. We're going to figure out where this thing is. God.
Okay.
He's a joy to watch. But here's
Awesome.
the thing. As fun as he is to watch and as hard as it is to take him seriously, given both the context and his accent,
Yeah.
he's a legit real deal rocket scientist. He's got 2 PhDs. He has not been public about his involvement with the UFO program. That leaked. In fact, it leaked in the run-up to the most recent season of Skinwalker Ranch. And the first episode was so awkward because they all had to sit around a table and Brandon Fugel was like, we should probably talk about the elephant in the room. And Taylor's like, yeah, so news leaked that I was chief scientist on the UAP task force. And everybody's like, were you like disinfo?
Were you going to tell us?
Like, he's like, I wasn't able to tell you guys. I swear to God, it had nothing to do with what we're doing here. Like, it was so awkward. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Travis Taylor sounds funny, but serious scientist.
Actually super
not
serious.
Impressed with Kirkpatrick's post. He
Yeah.
commented about this nonsense of extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence. Neither that phrase nor any of those words show up in the scientific method. By making that Saganistic statement, you immediately bias the experiment or the method because what you are saying is that you will be throwing out any and all unextraordinary data or evidence, whereas within the scientific method, all data and evidence must be considered, investigated, and analyzed. In order to find substantiating evidence, you have to actually look.
Yes. I love that. And I love the term Saganistic.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Now, I will admit I excised a little bit here. Travis Taylor does not care for Carl Sagan, and he includes some personal anecdotes about Carl Sagan being a jerk to him when he was a kid. He makes some claims about all of Carl Sagan's big contributions to science turning out to be lies. I don't know. I haven't looked any of that up, so I kind of cut it out because it's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, Travis Taylor did not like that. He immediately went to Carl Sagan. But he's not done yet. He goes on. He says, AARO was a farce to shovel the manure back into the manufacturer. First of all, can I just say, what a delightful turn of phrase. Shovel the manure back into the manufacturer. Just let that one sink in for a moment. It was a farce, and the public doesn't realize it. I find it very interesting how Kirkpatrick goes to Scientific American, and immediately there's an article claiming, hey, everybody, go back to work because there's nothing to see here, while myself and many, many others are railroaded at the peer review with papers that don't even mention UFOs.
Hell yeah. Nice.
I was like, damn.
Yeah, right?
Now, Kirkpatrick, of course, if he's anything, he is a messy bitch. He's not going to let this just sit there. He responds, well, that pretty much proves my point. Rather than produce any verifiable and repeatable evidence, something that I believe is in the scientific method, your immediate response is to hearken to unfounded accusations and character attacks. While you may not admire Sagan, the adage is within scientific doctrine, if not spelled out in the method. Searches for things such as the existence of the Higgs boson and quantum entanglement require extraordinary evidence. It's a matter of definition. So rather than sensationalized in the public sphere, how about you do some real science and present the data to the community for verification? Why leap to extraterrestrials when there are many other more salient explanations?
Shit. These guys are like on fire. Like, we need to roll out the vintage popcorn machine again. I actually need
for
to get
real.
into those
For real, right? I want a cage match.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Shit. Now, Travis Taylor, of course, didn't hesitate. He jumped right back in. I did not name call or character attack. Don't put that on me. I also never used the word extraterrestrial. I have only ever stated that there are a few possible solutions. And here I think he's talking in his context as the leader of the UAP task force. 1, near peers have leapfrogged us. 2, oligarchs have leapfrogged us. 3, Mother Nature is doing something we've never measured before. Or 4, something from elsewhere or elsewhen. I didn't claim anything extraordinary. I merely generated categories of solution sets. And I might add, the intelligence community, pressed hard to have category 4 removed from any documents. And while, as you say, the adage is within the doctrine, that doesn't make it correct. People all the time quote Occam's razor, and they never get it right, as Sir William of Ockham stated it. But it's in the doctrine. The obfuscation of throwing Higgs and quantum entanglement in the rebut does not make your point at all, because they did not require extraordinary evidence. What they required was steady, stable application of the scientific method.
Hot damn. Don't mess with Alabama.
Right? Oh, man. Travis Taylor bringing the heat.
Yeah.
But I love this debate because here's the thing. We've actually quoted Gary Nolan saying all the same things Travis Taylor said here. Extraordinary claims do not require extraordinary evidence. They require evidence, period. And you can't find evidence without looking. So if you start out with the assumption, this claim is bogus and we will not investigate it, you're not doing science. You're rejecting a possible outcome before you have the evidence. I'm thrilled with this whole exchange.
Yeah. That's a good one. So was that all on LinkedIn again, or the comments?
It was all on LinkedIn.
Fuck. Oh my God.
And of course, the way I saw it was all screenshots of LinkedIn comments posted on Reddit, because everybody on Reddit is like, popcorn, popcorn.
Yeah. Of course. Oh my God.
Oh, man. Right? So yeah, it's been an exciting couple of weeks. We've had a little bit of news. It also, I did not know this, which I should have since we just did the episode, but January 20th, yesterday, was the 28th anniversary of Virginia. We did the episode.
Oh, no shit. Right, yeah.
Just in time for the anniversary. I want to be clear to our listeners, if you're giving me any credit for that, it was a complete accident. We've been meaning
totally
to make that
intentional
episode forever. It was a good time. I put it up. Happened to be the 20th anniversary.
Yeah, that's super
the reason I mention it is there's quite a bit of Virginia news going on Reddit and Twitter. I was paying attention to it, but I didn't want to make a little mini episode or anything. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't find anything that was earth shattering. I'm like, oh my God, I have to bring this up. Someone put up a film of supposedly the Virginia alien. It was immediately debunked as a fake. There are some additional quotes from doctors and people who claim to have seen the alien body in the hospital, but nothing that really added to the body of what we said in our show. But I did think it was interesting that we put up the episode and almost immediately the whole UFO community is like, Virginia.
Yeah. There was a debunk on YouTube last week, I think, of the Malaysia flight and the 3 orbs. I thought that was interesting. I don't know, a lot of interesting stuff this last couple of weeks.
We never talked about that, did we?
I think we briefly talked about it. You got me all excited, at least.
Yeah, it was, I think we talked about it offline. I don't think I brought it to the show.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right.
But yeah, that was one of those ones. The UFO community was on fire for a month straight. And here's the thing. It's not a perfectly reliable indicator, but if Reddit can stay focused on a topic for more than a few days in a row, it's usually a sign that it's at least not easily debunked. And the video in question that Chuck's talking about there is a video supposedly taken by a military drone of Malaysian flight. What was it?
370? I feel terrible that I don't remember.
I forget. Yeah. But that Malaysian flight that went down and disappeared, and they maybe found wreckage of it, and nobody ever found any of the bodies. It was a big news story for a while. It will not surprise you to learn that the UFO community has a very easy answer for it. It was taken by alien. Why they would take an entire jet plane full of passengers? Yeah, we don't need to answer these questions. But this video popped up about a year ago that purports to show 3 glowing objects circling around the plane as it flies. and then there's a flash of light, and then they're all gone. And it was supposedly taken by a military drone. And it was all the community could talk about. And I will say this: it was a pretty interesting video. It was fairly compelling to watch.
Really good.
There were a lot of people debunking it pretty much right away. But here's the thing: none of the debunks were like, I would say, like, conclusive. There was a lot of things like, oh, like, I figured out that you can see the frame of the enclosure that the drone camera is in, and it's a little too boxy. This is clearly a like community 3D asset that someone downloaded in Unity or something. I'm like, I don't know, like maybe it is boxy. For me, the thing that finally killed it, the reason I never brought it to the show, and I bet you know what I'm about to say, a video editor noticed that the shape of the flash was a piece of stock art. Like this particular flash is an effect you can get, and he made a reproduction of it and showed, like, hey, look, it's an exact match, and you don't find an exact matched clip art on something like a weird flash. So for me, that was what kind of killed it.
that was the new video was like analyzing that exact stock art, and he found that it didn't match. Like he got really close in there. But if you twisted it just a little bit in Adobe After Effects, then it matched perfectly. He was like, okay,
there you go.
We're back.
There you go. Yeah, the Virginia alien footage was the same kind of thing. It was similar. Like, it was a little suspicious because it was all handheld, and you'll notice that when someone is taking handheld video of something that they don't want you to think too carefully about, it's really like, oh my God, like the camera's everywhere. And then on top of that, again, a video editor came out and was like, well, this particular VHS grain is a stock effect. Here it is. I can put it over something else and we get the same thing. That's impossible with real world VHS stuff. Anyway.
Well, now I have to go watch Blair Witch.
Blair Witch. Did I ever tell you my Blair Witch story?
No.
So I saw Blair Witch in college. They were doing screenings. This was before it was like big budget release. So nobody had heard of it. At Portland State, we have a little independent theater there where they play films like this. Okay. And it's cheap for students. So my friend Katie one night was like, hey, I want to go see this movie. Why don't you come with me? I was like, yeah, great. So we got in line and we asked the guy in front of us, hey, what's this movie about? Because we knew nothing.
Right.
And he turned around and he said, it's a documentary about some kids that went missing in the woods. And this is the film that they found.
Oh my God.
Now, here's the thing. You're going to think I'm ridiculous because I promise you the time that you or anyone else saw this movie, they were aware it was a movie.
Yeah.
I went in aware that it was a documentary. Yeah. And by about halfway through the movie, it has become clear this is no longer a documentary. Like, we knew it was fiction by the time we got it, but the vibe had been set so effectively. And we got out of the theater and it was dark out. And like, we had to walk back to Katie's apartment and watch a couple episodes of The Simpsons to like,
let's clear it out.
And for years, Katie would make fun of me because I was so unsettled by that final shot of the dude standing in the corner. And she moved into this house with this dude one time, and he had a wine cellar in the basement that looked like that room. It was like dirt floor and bare timbers. Okay. And we went down there. She was showing me the house, and she's like, oh, hey, Jim, go stand in the corner over there. I was like, no. She's like, look at Scott freaking out. Fucking Blair Witch.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. Now I know what to do if I ever have a bare floor basement.
Yeah, if you ever have a murder dungeon basement, you'll be able to get me very
freak
easily.
You out.
That movie, man. It's just so dumb, right? Because everybody else, it was just this particularly good horror movie, and I have this like almost traumatic experience. I'm watching it. Everybody's like, you wuss, you just can't handle horror movies. Like, no, the context matters.
Yeah, totally does. I'm with you, man. I can't handle horror either, so it's okay. You're in good company.
Yeah. All right. Well, Thank you all for joining us on It's a Very Exciting Time. You can find show notes and more on our website, veryexcitingtime.com, as well as links to our social media accounts.
And you can email us at scottorchuck@veryexcitingtime.com. And if you'd like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/veryexcitingtime.
And Chuck, as always, my wife thanks you for listening to me talk about UFOs so she doesn't have to.